I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, April the 29th, brought to you in part by Arvis Bank. Arvis Bank's agri-finance team knows ranching because they've lived it. With decades of experience financing cow, calf, stocker, and feedlot operations, all loans are subject to credit approval. For more information how you can tap into some of this financing, go to arvis.com/agriculture. Also, Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, another big sale for them. They just have them every week. 4,300 head for their Tuesday cattle auction. They're going to have a good run. Not too many calves. They're just not going to have a lot of calves in that part of the country. But they'll have 350 to 400 calves here on Tuesday. Most of them weighing 400 to 500 pounds and about half of them being weaned. Got fancy yearlings, guys, again this week. And remember, last week they had those that bring nearly 1,200 pounds, bring over 251. But they're going to have 1,500 yearling heifers. And a lot of them will be fancy, including 338 fancy 7 and 8 weight replacement quality black Angus heifers from the Suter Farms up towards Dodge City, Kansas. I mean, these are the real deal. They need to be kept. They're going to be offered in different size lots. I'm sure if you're interested, they can work with you on that. But I mean, fancy, real deal replacement quality heifers that absolutely need to be kept. They got another 93 head of 8 weight replacement quality heifers that should probably also be kept too. We got to start keeping some of these things or we're going to run completely out of cattle, guys. Then they'll have 2,250 head of yearling steers. Now there'll be 1,200 of them that'll be as fancy as some of them they had last week, weighing 8.5 to 1,200 pounds. Be coming from 3 different deals, all single source deals there. Lots and lots of load lots, guys, but really fancy big feeding steers. Be all right off the wheat there, guys, and they'll have a green condition to them and be ready to go to work for you. If you're going to make them weigh 17 or 18, might as well dig into them a little bit bigger there, guys. Then they have just a regular weigh up cow sale after the feeder sale, but don't forget about Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma. You can find them on DVAuction.com. Don't forget also May the 13th, that's just in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, they're going to be having a feeder flash Beaver Clash Graze Out special. I'm going to be on hand there. We're going to have another good offering of graze out wheat cattle there, guys. Maybe a little bit early, a week or so now that they've had a little bit of rain, but they've been missing the big rains that the meat of Oklahoma and even down in the Texas Panhandle have been getting. So it'll be time for a lot of those cattle to be coming off graze out wheat right in there. Conspiracy settlement. Now here today, already this week, I talked to many cattlemen that are receiving their antitrust paperwork for the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit that RCAF was very instrumental about. Now you remember they accused the Big Four packers of conspiring to reduce competition and suppress prices. Isn't that what they do all day, every day? Well, eventually, apparently they were able to find him guilty of it, or they actually haven't found him guilty of it, but JBS has decided to settle, that's kind of what JBS does. They get tired of fighting these deals. They get them all the time, whether it's poultry or pork or whatever it is, and then they just throw up the white flag and say, we're ready to settle. Now the other 3 defendants have not settled yet, but JBS has settled for $83.5 million. Now, I told you RCAF was very instrumental in this. You remember when it all started, we kind of rolled our eyes and thought, you know, nobody's ever going to get any satisfaction out of this deal, but you got to give it to RCAF. They hung in there, and that's what they're for. You know, it stands for, you know, the legal fund there, and so good for them. They got it done. just a coincidence. RCAF did not receive their invitation to the Common Ground Summit that happened last week, but they were instrumental in getting this. Several other big producers were instrumental in getting this, but it's a class action suit, guys. And if you sold cattle between June 1st, 2015 and February 29th, 2020, you could be eligible for payment if you sold the cattle cash. Now, if you were in some kind of a AMA sweetheart deal, not so much. So a lot of the big corporate feeders are not going to sop all this up because they were mostly in some kind of a cost plus or some kind of a profit sharing formula deal with them. But this is for straight up cash trade, guys. So if you are involved in some of that, you could be eligible to receive a payment. Also, if you were long the cattle futures during that time and you ended up selling out at a loss because of the way that the market was going, you could also be eligible for a payment back. So this is a big deal. But there's about 28 million of that 83.5 that is going to go for attorney's fees. They always get their cut right off the top, and then another 12 million or so, 12 or 13 million that's going to be going for litigation expenses. But there's still a lot of money out there, guys. But you need to check into that if you were doing business back in those days and you feel like you were affected by this antitrust conspiracy that they haven't settled. They haven't made a judgment yet or haven't done that, but JBS has settled, and like I said, the other three of the big four have not yet. But let's talk about your board to start the week on Monday. April live cattle futures up $1.40 at 215.65. June was up 135 at 209.60, and your back months were up 30 cents to up 122. May feeder cattle up 127 at just 291.80. Now it's going to have to come together in May with your index levels, and I'm still sticking to my guns. I still think at least your RTI, your real-time index, is going to hit $300. And it may blow by $300 and keep going, but it just keeps inching and inching closer. If that happens, your May feeder cattle is not nearly high enough, guys. August feeder cattle up 65 cents at a better price, $294.95. So it makes that May feeder cattle contract look even more inviting if you want to roll the dice there. But your back months on feeder cattle up 35 cents to up 55 cents. Look at your grains. May corn were down 3 1/4 cents a bushel at 475.5. Soybeans for May up 2 1/4 cents a bushel at 10.52. And hard red winter wheat for May down 13 1/4, and I told you it probably would be after we got all that moisture in hard red winter wheat country there over the weekend, and it closed at 524 3/4. Now your weighted average on last week's negotiated fed cattle trade on a direct basis in the 5 area feeding region totaled up 52,500 negotiated. We had a big late Friday. Unlike the previous week when we were thinking maybe we had a big late Friday and then it was Good Friday, so we couldn't tell what was going on at all. But we didn't have hardly any trade on that Good Friday. This past Friday we had a lot of trade, and most of it was after the 2 o'clock deadline to turn that information in, so we didn't find out about it until Monday morning. But didn't make for a big movement, but at least a moderate movement there. But that last week or the previous week, it was 55,850. Same week a year ago, your packers were building up supplies of cattle because they knew they were going to have to fill a bunch of orders for beef because it's grilling season. And a year ago, last week, that's 75,200. So, you know, they're going to be short bought coming in here this week, guys. But your fat steers and heifers last week, on a live basis, sold from 208 to 219. That was steady to $4 higher with the gains on the top side there. And your weighted average on live steers was 216.32. Wow, that was up 469 on the weighted average compared to the previous week's weighted average big gains. Dress sales ranged last week from $335 to $345. That was steady to $7 higher, and the big gains on the bottom side of that price range. But your weighted average on dress steers last week was $341.42. That was up $461. So as a whole, your Southern Plains mostly $2 to $4 higher, selling from $212 to $213. Northern Plains $4 to $6 higher, $217 to $218, and $3 to $8 higher dressed from $340 to $343 for the most part. Nationwide last week we sold 66,700 head compared to 67,200 the previous week, and 92,600 the same week a year ago, falling nearly 30,000 short last week. But of the 66,700, only about 9% of those, or less than 9%, were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. So they're not building anything up to take advantage of the market later. But your negotiated grid sales last week totaled 31,300 head. Forward contracts totaled up 36,900 head. That was bigger than what it's been. And your formula sales actually a little bit lighter than usual at 251,200. Of the 4 out of 5 areas in the 5 area that we get information, Iowa sold negotiated sales last week of 18,600. Almost all of those were on Friday. Nebraska sold 20,100 head. Every bit of those were on Friday, and most of them all late Friday. Kansas sold 9,000 last week, and about 6,300 of those were on Friday. Texas sold 4,800 last week, and all those but 100 head were on Friday. Let's talk about your box beef cutout values. Made huge gains to start the week. Huge gains. Maybe we're getting some of these buyers in here getting their wholesale stuff hand to mouth because they can't believe how high these prices are, but they know they got to have product anyway. But choice cuts on Monday afternoon were up 629 at 342.77. Selects up 501 at 325.12. Your slaughter, disappointing again, just 104,000 estimated cattle slaughter on Monday. That's 1,000 less than the previous week and 9,000 less than the same week a year ago. Let's talk about what else is going on. It's fixing to be punchy pick of the month time again. And we've been having fun with that. We're getting pictures in all month long. Remember, we have really 2 contests. The Kids Corral, and that's sponsored by Great Plains Consulting, and they've got consultants all over the country, guys. They're helping you with your business decisions, but they can also competitively bid on feedstuffs for your operation, and you can't hardly put a price on that, guys. That's including in their consulting fees. And then, of course, we got the Punchy Pick of the Month, sponsored from the very beginning from Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, and Fairpiece, that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. So, we've got some good sponsors there for the Punchy Pick of the Month contest, guys. If you get a Punchy Pick, just take that pick and email it to punchy@nationalbeefwire.com. You're automatically entered. It doesn't cost you a thing. Talk about your feeder cattle market, brought to you by Specialty Risk Insurance. They are working to protect your livelihood. Your real-time index on DVAuction, late on in the day on Monday after all your sales are concluded, sitting at 295.23, and that was up another 66 cents. And so we're gaining all the time, and I think we'll probably hit $300 by the end of the week, but I'm not going to promise that. But I do think before this rally is over, we'll sure pass $300. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index made a huge jump all the way up to 293.71. I want to tell you about a production sale that's coming up here this weekend. You want to check out Oland Red Angus production sale is going to be Saturday, May the 3rd at 5 o'clock p.m. in the evening. And it's going to be there on their farm at Leonard, North Dakota. He's got about 35 head of really, in shape, rugged, ready to go Red Angus bulls, the way that he feeds them there as he's getting them, ready for sale, is they have to walk a long ways from where they feed them to where they water, and those bulls are getting a lot of exercise and they're ready to go to work for you. They can cover some country and cover some cows. Let's talk about your feeder cattle sales, the big ones on Monday. Of course, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma National Stockyards, 4,900 head. I'm a little bit surprised they were able to get that many cattle in. It is really wet all around Oklahoma City. They got huge rains, huge over the weekend there. But the market was really good compared to the light offering that they had a week ago. Steers are $5 to $10 higher. Feeder heifers $7 to $13 higher. And heifer calves $5 to $10 higher. Good sale there in Oklahoma City. Joplin Regional Stockyards had 9,300 head. Big sale for them. And it was snappy too. Feeder steers $2 to $6 higher. Steer calves and stocker calves, steer calves, $5 to $15 higher. All weights of heifers steady to $15 higher, with some of those hard stocker heifers that could go to the feedlot or be turned out. Double bidding on those, selling from $15 to $20 higher. Joplin was your National Beef Wire Stick-Out Sale of the day. Check out these quotes from your automated market report through Cattle Market Central. And follow along here with your best tested weights, and they're pretty much all of them. 633 head of 4-weight steer calves, average 457 at 416 on the weighted average. 1,089 head of 5-weight steers in Joplin, average 545 at 373.61. There were 857 head of the 6-weight steers. They averaged 655 with a weighted average price of $332.27, and 639 head of the 7-weight steers averaged 756 at $296.49. 394 head of 8-weight steers in Joplin Regional Stockyards averaged 837 with a weighted average price of $280.62. Now look at the heifers. 721 head of the 4-weight heifers averaged 454 at $368.64. 1,087 head of 5-weight heifers averaged 542 at $334.28. 777 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 644 at $309.42. That's very impressive, guys. And 1,211 head of 7-weight heifers, probably go either way, go to feed or go be turned out somewhere. They averaged 737 with a weighted average price of $287.63. Most impressive quote that I saw come out of Joplin was 72 head of steers that weighed 697, right at 700 pounds, bring 337. Big time quote. Let me give you some other individual quotes from all around. How about West Point Livestock Auction in West Point, Nebraska? That's the Shavens up there. They sell 97 steers, weighed 910 pounds at $292. Wow, that's a lot of nines in there, guys. How about Elgin Livestock Sales in Elgin, Nebraska? That's eastern Nebraska, guys. They sell 55 steers, weighed 583 at $393 up there in farmer feeder country, guys. But the most impressive quotes that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Macrocin No BS top quote for the day. I'm actually going to give you two, but they both come out of Callaway Livestock Center in Kingdom City, Missouri. They had a big sale, over 4,000 head. But down in central Missouri, 59 steers weighed 573, excuse me. 59 steers weighed 573 at $390. But I think more impressive is 60 steers weighed 889, almost 900 pounds, central Missouri at $295. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.